if you look at all the world-class speakers that you've had, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, Mike Cunningham, right, John DiMartini, they've had adversity, right, big time. And Mike Cunningham, for me, had 100 million, lost it all.
Lost Keith Cunningham 100 million.
Keith Cunningham,
yeah.
100 million, lost it all.
Yeah.
And then you had a reporter ask you, what's it like losing 100 million?
Is this the obvious game?
And he's like, it's pretty shitty, that's what it's like. You know, and he's saying it, but then you say it back to him, he goes, but I've learned so much from that.
Yeah.
That now I've become better, and now I'm become more effective in doing what I'm doing. He, by the way, was probably the best speaker I've ever seen, which I wasn't expecting. He was that good. Lovely guy as well.
Yeah.
So you run business. What made you start up Front Row?
So Front Row started initially as a type of management firm. We had players, so I was a player agent. I still have a few guys on that side of things that I look after. We had, I was doing some media work myself. Sky
Sports?
Yeah, Sky Sports and RTE. I was also, people started asking us, could you get a speaker or celebrity for a talk or a product launch? So we started to do a small bit of that. We were also just open to different types of marketing ideas. So we were trying everything. Let's call it a spade at the start. And you know, some of my colleagues, you know, in jest, some of them were, gee, what's Frankie doing next? You know what I mean? He's trying, you know, he's getting everything. But I suppose in effect, I didn't have a choice really. I mean, here I was at the time. Maybe I had 2 kids, maybe another one on the way.
So you have 5 kids now, don't you?
I have 5 kids now, right? Kids, yeah. And so that's motivation in itself. You know what I mean? You got to make things happen here. You know what I mean? And yeah, and nobody prepares you for the finish. I mean, as much as they talk about, oh, when you finish, no, it'll be a different story. Yeah. When you finish, it's totally different story. And unless you're someone like Paul O'Connell or Brian O'Driscoll, who will have a few very big 6-figure endorsements from big multinational companies across the world, you know, it's a very tough transition, and you'll probably do a proper study on it in 10 years' time. So I just went out, and the one thing that I was never afraid of was hard work and rolling up the sleeves and getting involved. And as I said, I had been looking forward to, you know, having a go at different opportunities and trying out my ideas. And I was already a director in my brother's mortgage company at the time, so he was financial services, and I was at one point with a view to going into that. But obviously with the crash, everything happening there, that wasn't an option anymore. But so then I had I love sport and I love business, so that was hence the transition between the two. So in the last maybe 2 years, then we've really filtered it down. So it is now slight rebrand as Front Row Speakers. So we deal with the top companies, not just in Ireland, but from UK, America, Singapore, even Australia. Companies would contact us, and they're looking for cutting edge speakers from everything from high performance, wellness, leadership, or you know, entertainment, comedians, people for their product launches, you name it. So that's doing very well. Margins are tight in it. It's a tight business, and I suppose that prompted us then to get involved in Pendulum somewhat.
Yeah.
Having a conversation with my brother one day, and I was in the midst of the financial crisis, and I kind of said, look, the opportunity's there, but I can't do it. So he said, Frankie, I'll back you. So he went in, and he's a 100% shareholder in that Pendulum. So we said, you know, hopefully someday he might sort me out in some shape or form, but you know, there's no guarantee. But so what? Ultimately, we went, and the idea was hopefully that this could help with the speaker business, because the event game is tight in this country as well. You know, I mean, there's big costs, and there's so many events. There's probably 2-3 different events a day, like from all different shapes and sizes, right? So the idea was that if we really delivered a very good event here, even if it was only covering its costs, at least we would be seen as a more credible speaker agency. And that's why you would have a link between the two. They're two totally separate companies, but Front Row Speakers would sponsor Pendulum, based on that, and they would get some business on the back of that, you know.
What is it? It's the fastest growing.
Yeah, it's the world's leading business and self-empowerment summit. It was the largest summit in Ireland last year. We're looking at numbers. There was a recent summit. I'm not sure. I think we had more numbers than them, but
I'd say you do.
Yeah,
from my experience.
So it's interesting, but again, it's not necessarily. And we're reflecting now. Is it about getting bigger and bigger? But I think the great feedback this year was people telling us how authentic it was, and the real value and depth that was in the conference. So that means a lot.
The content this year was exceptional, and you could take the content and review it over a year and still not be done. You could just apply certain factors within any business. You can apply in business and life just in general. So you wouldn't even necessarily have to be interested in business to attend it. They're practical skills that you can apply it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Which was very good. And from Tony's talk, which was obviously just incredible, it was probably a little bit less practical in your day-to-day business life in terms of how you could apply that side of it as well. It was probably a bit more in the mindset. But some of the speakers that were speaking was, this is how you'll run a business effectively.
Sure.
Like probably my favourite was Cunningham's, when he goes, find out what they want, go and get it, give it to them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he just stuck all the letters up on the chart. But literally, if you follow that formula, you can follow that formula for any part of your life.
And the interesting thing, I mean, when we got Cunningham, people were like, who?
Yeah.
And I was like, trust me. I said, Frank Madden from the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, when he saw he was coming to the event, he said, my God, Frankie, I saw him in 2008. He's the best speaker I have ever seen. I have scaled my business on the back of the business systems he introduced into my company, and it's all down to him. And so I knew this. I saw him, and I flew out to Vegas to see him and met him out there, and he performed about a 7 out of 10 in Vegas. I got him to about a 9 out of 10. And I'm just taking one off him just for one's sake, right? And he came back, and I loved him because he gave the advice that I always say, the advice your dad would give you. You know, sometimes you have these Dragon's Den things. What's your turnover? What are you going to be turning over in 3 years' time? You know, and you're like, they go, I'll be turning over 100 million in 3 years' time. But like, who knows what the hell you'll be turning over in 3 years' time? And he's the type of guy who sort of questioned those, those perceived principles out there at times, and
he made the audience laugh a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
And because he was so practical, and one of the things he does, he was telling me about, his minimum usage is $50 for his car washing business, and it goes right up to $1,000 for washing your car. And he said, when you buy a car, he goes around to local dealerships and he gives them a free voucher for 30 days that once you buy a car, you can get a car wash free using their service. And he said nobody will get their car washed every day. But he goes, if they don't come back to us after 30 days of getting free car washes, then we've got a really bad business. So I need to get out of that model. And he was just giving them just really practical examples about how people opt in as well, which are particularly good. Was there any particular skills in sport that transcend nicely into business that you could see that were very, very complementary?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, some of the people we have dealt with again, and just trends that I see from these guys from a distance a lot of the time. A lot of them are very uncompromising. You know, you have a Tony Robbins, he's uncompromising. Non-negotiable. And another guy, actually, one of our own, Willie Walsh, said it, I remember 3 years ago at Pendulum 2014, and he said, you know, non-negotiable, but he said, as a CEO, he strives to be unreasonable to an extent, you know, when, you know, he brought up an example of a big issue that they had over there. I can't remember exactly what it was at the time, but they said, look, it's going to take 48 hours. He said, I don't care, when it's done in 12 or something like that. I think they eventually compromised at 24, but he went very unreasonable just to, I guess, make a point, and he somewhat got his own way, you know. But so being uncompromising, non-negotiable. I think you need to, passion is an obvious one. You've got to be passionate. I mean, you have no business in any business really, you know, unless you're just going to be mediocre all the time. You must be passionate if you want to drive things on. Keith Cunningham did say on the day as well that, you know, this myth about follow your passion, that ain't going to work either. You know, if your passion is not going to pay the bills, and Tony Robbins would say the same, if your passion doesn't pay the bills, it's a hobby, right? And we need to be careful of that. And sometimes people get too caught up in that, and I'm going to travel to India and find myself, and they come back and their head is in a spin.
Because your baby's ugly, but no one's going to tell you that, but your baby's ugly. But nobody wants to admit it, but he was saying that, kill your darlings.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you have the traditional buzz ones. You need to be able to get on well with people as well. I believe in any type of business, in the sport. You know, I saw very talented guys not go as far as they could have because they didn't fit in as well as other guys. That's important, because when you're around them, living with them and so forth like that, you need to be a fun person and
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think what you need as well is, and we touched on it earlier there, but John Mullins, who was a previous speaker from 3 years ago as well, said, I mean, balance is a personal thing, and it's finding out what your balance is. I mean, Robin Sharma, who for me was probably the best speaker, well, he was up there. Keith was outstanding as well, but I loved Robin Sharma as well. And he is this 5 o'clock club, you know, get up at 5 o'clock every day. No, that's not going to work for me, you know, and that's not, I'm not being critical of him. He strives for that, excellence, and he believes that that's the way to do it, but that's not going to be for me. I might get up at 5 o'clock once every 2 weeks or something, but not every day. And maybe a more sustainable one for me is to get up at 6 or half 6. So it's fine. What's right for you is, you know, me not having a drink of alcohol ever again, or not eating any fast food or any junk food ever again. Is that a sustainable and realistic goal? No, it's not for me, but maybe it is to say, right, I'll do that on once every 2 weeks on a Saturday night. I'm going to have a few drinks with my buddies. I'll bring out my wife a different night, and we'll, you know, whatever. I'll bring the kids for a bag of chips or something like that. So it's finding out what the right balance is for you, and that's what we're trying to do here, I guess. Is there are certain principles in self-empowerment and business and life, and we're asking the best in the world, give it to us. What are they? Now, a lot of them are coming back similar, but you might find you'll take one from Sharma, you'll take 2 from Cunningham, you'll take 1 from John D. Martini, and Lisa Nichols. They all have something different, and it's just so it's sculpting yourself. It's stealing the different ideas and putting them into your own little package. Yeah.
Do you apply any of the techniques over the last couple of years where you've said it's a bit of your mantra now? It's something that you do all the time. You mentioned you don't necessarily have a 5 a.m. club. You work, but what works for you. But is there anything that you did take to kind of go, I know that to be true from meeting these people yourself?
Yeah, I think that I've certainly become more comfortable in my own skin. I do occasionally use a few different mantras and different things. I'm constantly taking notes, and I hear different things, and day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. I make decisions based on the principles of truth, rest securely knowing that only right action is taking place in my life. Those type of things. And before, when it came to making decisions, I used to think that there was a right way and a wrong way. But now I understand that both ways can be the right way. They're just different paths. And I think that was very important for me to understand that, and I know that now. So when I make a call, I know that it's the right one. It can be, and you just follow it. Then, you know what I mean. So before I was, oh my God, I'm after making the wrong decision. It's going the wrong way, you know. Whereas no, it's okay, and there's a good peace of mind there. And it's just, I think, being open to constantly improve yourself and be constantly looking for better ways, following your intuition. You know, even this year now alone, even Jack Canfield spoke about, you know, what's your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. And I kind of, you know, I suppose as an organizer, you're not getting a chance to listen to these. I've only been listening to a lot of them back since. I still haven't listened to them all, but I'm 3/4 of the way there now listening to them back. But I'm still working on my BHAG, and there's one thing that's after jumping into my mind, and I'm kind of, oh my God, am I actually going to do that? I mean, that's that's something I was putting off, but am I going to do that? So I won't share with you just yet, but maybe in time I'll share with you. So yeah, you know what I mean, these guys, and again, as you say, a lot of the time, one of the things I learned as well this year was knowing these things is only one thing, that's only one part of it. And there's so many guys, there's those, we call them the bar stool guys setting up the bar. So a lot of these guys know all these facts that we're talking about now.
Yeah, the knowledge curse.
But it's knowledge curse, but it's putting them into action.
Yeah.
And it's taking massive action. And what Tony Robbins talks about, and I love this one myself, you change your goals to musts. Yeah. Right? And I explain that side. I think the goal, what's your goal? I think sometimes a goal can be seen as just out there and it's a bit airy-fairy and it's a bit fake. My goal is someday to grow up and work in RT, being an interviewer. And which Jack Canfield said, that jumping across, you know, vague goals lead to vague outcomes, right? But if you say that you must be an interviewer in RT by the time in the next 3 years, that's a big difference to that's my goal. I must be there. I have to be there.
Yeah.
I've no choice. So change your goals to musts. And, you know, like that, I mean, people are constantly on the phone to us and sending us emails. Thanks for transforming our life. I'm saying, look, we had nothing to do with it. It's the speakers do it. But
that's great feedback to get though when you come to work each day, right? That's great.
I guess what helped us, I suppose, and it's probably jumping ahead to something I know you were looking to talk about, but when we signed someone like Tony Robbins, right? And the only way we got Tony, by the way, I have emails going back from 6 or 7 years ago asking, would Tony do this and would Tony do that? And I was getting PFOs most of the time, right? Yeah. And Deepak Chopra, who spoke for us 3 years ago, I text Deepak, right? A privilege I wouldn't abuse, right? Because Deepak is such a superstar. And I said, Deepak, thank you so much again for coming to Ireland. Just wondering, can you help? I know you know Tony Robbins. Love to understand how we could look to get him to Ireland. He replied within 30 seconds to say, Frankie, it was one of the best conferences I've ever done all across my career. I'd be delighted to help. Send me an email to my personal email and I'll send it to Tony. And a month later I had a voice note email from Tony on Paddy's Morning 2015 saying how honoured and privileged he was that I would thought of him, and a couple of challenges he doesn't do. He normally only does four day gigs.
Yeah.
The economics are going to be a challenge and a schedule. So I said, look, that'll be fine. But 3 months later we signed a contract, and if I showed you the contract, or if I showed anybody in business the contract, they would commit me to a home, I'd say, because if he sneezed, he was able to walk away with everything, right? But we I suppose, find a way or make a way. We had to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like we told people Tony Robbins is coming to Dublin and the floodgates opened. They didn't. Lots of people were, Tony who? Who's Tony? And while I love the traits of Irish people, and I suppose Irish people would represent maybe 60% of our audience, but I love not as much the cynical side, but the skeptical side. And I encourage that, and inside in our company now, I always get guys, you know, being skeptical is good. You know, we need to be skeptical when it comes to these type of things. But there is quite a few people that can be cynical and this old American stuff, and you know, so we had to work so hard to tell people, guys, do you realise how big this is? I mean, we are bringing, you know, this guy has turned over 6 billion in his 12 companies. He's taken 1 billion himself out of it in the last year. He's a billionaire now. He's, you know, he only ever does 4 or 5 day gigs. We're getting him to do all the best bits in a 5-hour slot, so you don't have to travel over to America to do it. It's all the best bits. You can get your CPD points. You're meeting the top business leaders. You're doing all this, and it's only like €450 or whatever it was at the time. And some of them got it and signed up immediately. Give me 20 tickets or whatever. But I mean, there was a challenge, like, and we were down to the wire to fill it. Do you know what I mean? And so, but it's an amazing situation when, you know, I had to make that happen. We had to make that happen. We had to pay the bills. if that didn't happen, apart from the fact that it was such a big contract, around the convention centre, which is a world-class facility, I have 5 small kids at home. I couldn't take, I can't take that chance. I can't go back to them and not have, something, be able to pay the bills. I mean, so that type of pressure is a tough pressure, but it's one that forces you into serious action.